Let's now turn our attention to actually taking the exam. Let's focus and talk about what it's going to be like as you walk in to take your exam. But I want to start not quite on exam day. Let's go back a little bit before that. Ladies and gentlemen, hop in my time machine. It's the week before your exam. In brief, 7 days from now, you must get up, go in, and take your USMLE Step 2 CK exam. I have a simple question. Are you ready? Are you prepared? No, of course not. Hardly anybody feels ready as the exam gets closer. Nonetheless, our basic suggestion is that you schedule the exam and you take it when it's scheduled. Nothing crystallizes your preparation or efforts quite as much as that deadline looming on the horizon. Having that exam date scheduled, working your process towards that goal does a lot to motivate you and give you a sense about the time frame you have to work with. So what are you going to do these brief remaining days before the exam? Well, my recommendation first is you will not look at any new material. This is not the time to crack a book you haven't looked at, to look at a kind of question set you haven't looked at. This is a time when you should not be focusing on highlight and repetition, after all, but recall and practice. Somebody comes to you the week before the exam and says they found a great book on one of the medical specialties for the exam. Politely just tell them, no thank you, you're done. New information at this point is likely to be confusing as opposed to helpful as you try to organize your thinking. Second, take a moment sometime this week to have an honest conversation with yourself about what it is you do not know. There will be one thing. No, frankly, there will be several things. I want you to get up, look at yourself eyeball to eyeball in the mirror, and talk to yourself about what it is you do not know. Why? I'm trying to prepare you so when that issue shows up in an exam question, your reaction is not, I don't know this, but instead, here's the thing I don't know, mark my favorite letter, and go on to the next question. You will have gaps in your knowledge. It's guaranteed. I don't want you to feel bad about those gaps. Third, you have to get yourself on the right time schedule. As you study, you may often stay up later and later in the evening, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, in order to do your study and preparation. Now, there's nothing wrong with staying up to study, but during the exam, we need you awake, alert, and functioning between 8 in the morning and about 6 o'clock at night. In order for that to occur, we have to get you out of the schedule you're on when you're studying and into the schedule you're going to need on exam day. And it takes about a week to recalibrate yourself. You can't make yourself go to bed early. What you can do is force yourself to get up at the right time. So if you've been going to bed because of your late studying at 3 o'clock in the evening, go ahead and do that, but then set the clock for 6 o'clock in the morning, which is when you're going to have to get up on exam day. You have to get up at 6 because you need a half an hour for your toiletries, a half an hour to have breakfast. You have to have breakfast this day, a half an hour for travel, and a half an hour in case all hell breaks loose. You have to take care of something unexpected. 6 o'clock is when you have to get up. So you go to bed at 3, you get up at 6, but you'll be tired. Yes, you will be. But tonight, you're going to have a much easier time going to bed when you need to. It takes about a week to make this transition. I highly recommend the transition because having yourself physiologically functioning at the peak during the time of your exam gives you a real advantage in the process. Every day in this week before the exam, I want you to take some time off. Half an hour, frankly, an hour would be better, where you will do at least go out and take a walk. Go to the gym and exercise, but something where your mind can look at the world around you and not be thinking about the exam and your preparation. And let's talk about your family, shall we? As you're getting ready for your exam, as you're preparing and studying, your family is usually pretty good until the week before the exam. And then that phone starts to ring. Your family's calling, your mother, your father, your cousins, your aunts, just to wish you well. Well, there's two problems with these phone calls. One, while you've been studying, the world goes on out there, and people have all sorts of news to tell you, not all of which is good news. Sometimes these calls have news like your parents are getting divorced, like your dog just died, like something's happened and they foreclosed on your parents' home. There are all kinds of bad things that can happen, and these can be real distractions, especially as the exam gets close. Even Even if there's no bad news, let's be honest, what happens when your mother calls? Your mother calls, you talk to her, you hang up, and now what's going on in your head? Well, aren't you thinking about, I have to do well? What will she think about me if I don't do well? And you're basically now useless for the next 24 hours. So I have a simple but important suggestion. If talking to your family distracts you, causes you concern, creates anxiety, then stop talking to them. If your mother keeps calling, unplug your phone, turn off your cell. If she comes to visit you, then move, go to a hotel, and don't tell anybody where you are. And what I'm giving you, as directly as I can, is permission to be selfish. This week before the exam, I want you to focus on one person and one person only, yourself. Those of you with children, you're not doing childcare this week. Those of you that have spouses, you're not worrying about cleaning, cooking, or doing any of the other activities. You're worrying about one person only, yourself. You must focus on this. All the people that love you and care about you, they do, but they're sitting up in the bleachers rooting for you. It's a different game down here on the field. You know what you have to do. I'm giving you permission. Make sure that you do it. There is nothing that can't wait until after the exam. Before the exam is not the time to have that discussion about where our relationship is going. That's after the exam. Before the exam is not a time to try to deal with any important life issue or life decision. Everything should wait until after the exam. Because now, it's the day before the exam. You have a brief remaining 24, no 23, no 22 hours until you have to go in and take the exam. Once again, I ask you the critical question. Are you prepared? Are you ready? Have you done everything you have to do to get ready for the exam? And once again, the answer is clear. No, of course not. But you're going to take the exam anyhow. So what are you going to do with this brief remaining 24 hours? Take the day off. You're done. Your preparation is over. You've mastered everything you're going to master. You are finished. There's no additional facts. There's no new concept. There's no key differential you're going to master this day that's going to make a difference and tip the tide when you're going to take the exam tomorrow. What I need you to do is begin to get mentally and physically ready to take the exam. Take the day off. See yourself as I see you. You're athletes in training. But this isn't a sprint, this is a marathon. And if you're training for a marathon, you run, you run, you run, you run, and then the day before the big race, you sit on your butt and you relax. This is you. The day before the exam, I want you to do anything but study. Take all your materials, put them in a box, put them aside, and go out into the world. See where all the normal people are. Go ahead. Go out to the mall. You like shopping? Little credit card therapy never hurt anybody. Knock yourself out. Go out to see a movie, a nice comedy, give you some belly laughs, a nice action picture, siphon off some of that ambient anxiety. Go out and have a meal. Let somebody wait on you for a change. No alcohol. Alcohol disturbs your sleeping. But spend time with someone who will talk to you about anything but the exam. You want to be relaxed, refreshed, and ready to go. The one point of business you will do the day before the exam, and only one point, is you will drive to the testing center the day before the exam. Or if you're going there by bus or taxi or train, you'll go there the way you're going on the morning of the exam. Why? Because you want to make sure that you know that you can get there and that nothing unexpected has cropped up to get in your way in the course of transit. In most urban areas and many suburban areas, there's road construction, there are weather issues. You want to make sure you're fully informed as to where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. Because folks, it's exam day. Here it is, you knew it was coming, it's now upon us. I don't know how you think about this exam day, but I don't see you this day as the white-coated physician trying to save the world. I see you this day as the blue-collar factory worker. You're not really helping people get rid of disease. You're on an assembly line, not making toasters or widgets. No, you're answering questions, but it is an assembly line nonetheless. The metaphor is the question rolls in front of you, you deal with it the way you know to, and the question rolls away to be replaced by the next question, the next question, and the next question as you walk your way through the exam. I'd like you to get into what one psychologist has called the flow experience. The flow experience is when you have maximal concentration, your emotionality is most held in check, and your attentional mechanisms, your cognitive thinking are going to be most in control. If you've ever done any running, you know what I'm talking about. There's a running where one step leads to the next and you feel like you're carried through the race. And then there's the running where every step seems independent. It's like you're starting fresh with every new stride. When you're in the flow, each step carries to the next, and you find yourself at the end of the race before you even realize what has happened. I want you to get in to what one psychologist called the flow experience. The flow experience is where you have maximal concentration, your emotionality is most held in check, and your cognitive thinking is going to be the most efficient and crystal clear. The flow experience is what carries you through the exam. If you've ever done any running, you know there's a big difference between the running where one step leads to the next and you feel propelled forward almost by another hand as you're running your race, as compared to the running where each step seems independent, every stride seems like a new event. I want to get you in the flow experience. You begin to feel carried through the exam. And the way to get into this flow experience is to, 1, start at the very first question. Second question, third question, fourth question. Simply walk your way through each block. Keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Do not skip any questions. If you come to a question you don't know the answer, you don't know the answer. Mark the question. You come to a question you don't know the answer, you don't know the answer. Mark your favorite letter and go on to the next question. There's another question coming. Don't go back. Think about going forward. We don't want you to run through the exam, but we don't want you to stroll either. You must go through with a reasonable pace. Think about the exam as basically you walking over a sheet of ice on a lake. As long as you walk smoothly, you will make it through. If you run, you will fall through the ice. If you stop, you will fall through the ice. You must keep yourself moving. You will not change answers. Once you mark an answer, you're done with that question. It's time to go on and find the next question. I want to talk to you next about suggestions as to how you handle your break time. Remembering that in addition to managing your time within the block, you have to manage your break time over the course of the day. Presenting here a recommendation for what you do with your break time. Now, you can take my recommendation or not. If you don't take my recommendation, then make out your own schedule. But critically, have a schedule. Don't just walk in and, quote, see what happens. You ought to have a programmed way you're going to handle your schedule time so you know how you're going to handle the day. My suggestion, you walk in and you do block 1. And then you take a breathing break. What's a breathing break? Okay, then block 2. After block 2, take a 5-minute break. Why? You've just done almost 100 questions, you need a break. Then you do block 3, another 5-minute break, and then block 4, it's time for lunch. You've done just under 200 questions at this point. Pat yourself on the back, good bit of effort, and now it's time for that lunch break. Take 25, 30 minutes if you can for lunch. Yes, I know you can wolf down your food in about 10 minutes, but you can't relax, refresh, and recoup in 10 minutes. We need you to take that lunch break. It's that pause that refreshes because you have a long afternoon yet ahead. Do block 5 and then that breathing break. Block 6, a 5-minute break, and then block 7, the final break. After block 7, take every second of break time you have left. Take it all. You don't need it anymore after this, so take it all. Because you just come to the most critical moment in the exam. You've just done 7 blocks of questions. You've been at this just about 8 hours. It's been a long day, you're tired, and admit it, you don't care anymore. You just want to go home. But you have to care. Getting the score you want demands that you care. And so you better stop, take all your break time, and give yourself the talk. What's the talk? Everything I've done up till this point is simple practice. This is what makes the difference. Whether I pass or fail, this block makes the difference. Whether I get the residency or not, this block makes the difference. Lay it on thick. Give yourself the talk because you got to hold it together. You got to care for another 60 minutes. After that, we don't care. You collapse after that, doesn't matter, but you got to keep your head in the game for one more block. That's how we suggest you parcel out that break time. Again, you don't like this schedule, make up a different one, that's fine, but you must have a schedule. As you're going through the exam, in order to keep your initial confidence intact, you must proceed with a proper sense of reality. You must set your expectations to what reality is. The right expectation to have going through your exam is, 1, expect the question will be hard. Stop hoping it will be easy. If it is, then you feel good. You can laugh. You can be all happy that the question was stunningly easy. Don't hope they'll be easy. Expect they'll be hard and feel wonderful when it is easier than you thought. Expect the answer will not be immediately apparent. These are not the questions where you read the question and know the answer. These are questions where you do a process. You're being tested on whether or not you can do the process, which kicks out the answer at the end. So assume you will have to think. It's not about knowing, it's about thinking, but also assume you can get the answer. When you're going through the questions, you're playing an essential game, and the game is played with rules. And the rules are, every question must give you all the information you need in order to answer the question. If you can grab the clues, if you understand the presented information, you can derive the answer. How do you manage your time as you're going through the question blocks? How do you manage your time as you're going through each individual block? Well, you must begin to pace yourself from the very beginning. If you begin to worry about time at the end of the block, it's really too late. So my strong recommendation is do about 10 questions and then look at where you are. You've done 10 questions. It's taking you about 11, 12 minutes. You're on good pace. Keep going exactly the same way. You're in wonderful pace to go through the block. You've done 10 questions. It's taking you about 5 minutes. Then slow down. Going through the exam too quickly is actually an anxiety symptom. You're getting rid of the questions, I fear. You're not spending adequate time to answer the questions. Slow down. Getting rid of questions too quickly means you're not having that essential moment of thought that makes all the difference between choosing the best answer and the second best answer. You check how much time has gone by. We've done 10 questions. It turns out at 15, 16, 17 minutes. Then you have to go faster. You must pick up the pace. How do you go faster? Not by reading faster, because you cannot read faster. If you could read faster, admit it, you'd already be reading faster. I doubt you slowed down your reading speed because it's a time test. You can't read faster. What you can do is decide faster. Learn to pull the trigger. Learn to choose the answer when you're not quite as comfortable and sure as you'd like to be. What I have in mind here is a concept you all should be familiar with. What I have in mind here is called triage. Your Step 2 CK exam is primary care content, but it is trauma medicine in process. You can't save every patient. Your job is to apply your time to get the maximal outcome, to save as many as you can. If you come to a question and you don't know the answer, then you're never going to save the patient. Mark your favorite letter and move on. Don't try to be heroic. Don't spend extra time. You're wasting time that you need for other questions. If you come to a question that seems easy, congratulations, it is. Take it as a gift from God, mark the answer you think it is, and move on. Stop looking for tricks, stop looking for traps. There are none. USMLE questions are not tricky. They can be hard. If you're looking for tricks, you're going to talk yourself out of simple questions you ought to be getting right. The idea here is to conserve the time so you have it where you need it. Don't waste on the hard ones you're not going to get right. Don't waste on the easy ones you've already gotten right. Save it so you have it when you need it. What are the biggest time wasters? There are two. First, rereading the question. Going back and going through the long stem again. Ladies and gentlemen, you simply don't have time to reread the question. The second time waster, getting stuck in the options. A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, E. Reading repeatedly over and over again, hoping that somehow things will get clearer. The options do not clarify. I remind you, The question is your friend. It's the options that are the enemy. Answer the question when you're reading the question. Force yourself to make the choice. Force yourself to pull the trigger. You're going to have to practice this in your practice questions, because that feeling you have that if you just had more time is almost overwhelming. You don't have more time. You must decide. Triage rules. Often, over the course of the exam, for some of you, many times over the course of the exam, anxiety wells up. And anxiety becomes something that gets in the way so you can't even answer questions that are simple and obvious. The best way to deal with these overwhelming bouts of anxiety, the best way to deal with test anxiety in general is, well, one, have a clear routine strategy for handling each question. Having routine tells you what to do, and knowing what to do tends to keep anxiety at bay. But if anxiety breaks through that routine, then we're going to take a page out of behavioral psychology and have you use a timeout. Timeout is what we do with children when they misbehave. You're going to do this with your physiology when it's misbehaving. For a timeout, you pull away from the stimulus that's producing the response, and while you're away from the stimulus, you will then lose the response. So, if you have anxiety that's overwhelming so the questions don't make sense, you will take your hand off the mouse, close your eyes, fold your hands, and think about anything but the exam. It's important that you not be thinking about the question, but that you fill your head with things that are not about the exam. Recite a favorite poem, sing a little song to yourself, think about where you're going to go when the day is done. You do that for 30 seconds. When you open your eyes and re-engage the exam, the question that seemed impossible a mere 30 seconds before will now suddenly seem easy. This timeout is the crucial pause that refreshes. Most of you will need to do the timeout at least once in every block of questions. And when you do the timeout, don't feel bad that you have to do it. Feel glad that you're smart enough to know you have to do it. The right response to rising anxiety is not to push ahead. That simply reinforces, makes the anxiety worse. It's to pull back, recalibrate, re-engage. That's how you're going to make sure you're doing your optimal performance. Take breaks when you need them. If you're not focusing well, take a small break. If you're not thinking well, take a small break. You can rejoin the exam when you're in a better state of mind. Sometimes it's not anxiety, it's the thoughts in your head that get in your way. There's a strong tendency as you go through the exam to try to tell yourself how well you're doing. I'm doing really well, or I'm not doing really well. Let's be clear what the research says. You have no idea how you're doing. Most people walk out of the exam thinking they failed. The vast majority of people walk out of the exam thinking they did not do well. You don't know how well you're doing. We've had people guess how well they did and then looked at their scores afterwards. You're not a good predictor of your performance, so stop trying. I don't want you thinking about how well you're doing. I want you thinking about the question before you, and that's it. Once again, think about yourself as an athlete. You're in a game. The score's close. You're making the last shot. If you're thinking about the score, you're going to miss the shot. You're distracted by the outcome. You're not focusing on the process. It's the process that's going to give you the outcome that you need. I want to remind you one more time of the Are You On Call sequence. This is once again the 8-step process for handling each of the questions as you encounter them. Doing this process over and over repeatedly gives you a simple routine procedure for moving your way through the exam. With each question, you have 3 and only 3 tries to get a correct answer. If you can't get the question right in 3 tries, you simply do not know the answer. Picture somebody taking shots at a target. If they squeeze off 3 shots and they miss the target 3 times, what would you guess their chances of hitting the target on the 4th bullet? Probably not very good. And this is true for you as well. You have 3 tries to get the question right. If you can't get it right in 3 tries, you do not know the answer. Your first try to get the question right, we call the recall pass. The recall pass is where, metaphorically, the paper's covering the options, you've read through the question, and now you're recalling, thinking about what makes a good answer. When you think about what makes a good answer, now look down at the options. You see the answer you thought of? Pick it. Congratulations, you got the question on the first shot. What if you can't think of a good answer? Or worse, The one you thought of isn't there. Then you have a second bullet in your gun. We call this the selection pass. For the selection pass, you go down through your options one at a time, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, looking for not a good answer, but the best answer. Not an answer that looks acceptable, but one that is, and I quote, clearly superior to all other options presented, unquote. The good answer is not good enough. It's got to be clearly superior. If you find yourself splitting hairs between two options, trying to decide which one is better, my recommendation, don't pick either of them. The right answer will be clearly superior. If you really get the question, the right answer will stand out like a neon sign in the backdrop of all the other options, head and shoulders above all the other presented options. If you see an option that's clearly superior, pick it. You got the question on the selection pass. Oh, no one option looks clearly superior, no one option looks better than all the others, then you have one more bullet in your gun. It's time for the exclusion pass. One last time through the options now, looking not at what's right, but telling me what's wrong. If you can't decide what the good answers are, then reverse your logic, tell me what the bad answers are. All right, let's do this together. All right, let's see. Can't be A, could be B, can't be C, could be D, can't be E, remember what I said in class, can't be F, G's funny, can't be G. All right, B or D, B or D. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You've just come to the most common moment in the exam. This moment will recur over and over and over. It is by far the most commonly reported exam experience. Out of 370 questions, most of you will have this exam experience something close to 130 times. Most of you have dreams about this moment when you walk away from the exam. You've got it down to two choices. Is that good or bad? That's good. You took a question that was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, one where you had roughly a 12% guess, and you converted it into a 50% guess. Congratulations. You've increased your probabilities rather dramatically. What action should you now take? Easy. Stop thinking and guess. At this point, you do not know which option is correct, so thinking will not bring you home. You have to simply take your 50% and run. Guess. Which one should I pick? I don't know, and you don't either. Pick one, and let's go. There's another question waiting. Most people, you should know, get less than half their 50-50s correct. That's not just you, that's everybody. Most people get less than half of these 50-50s correct. The reason we're having you take a random guess is simple. If we can just elevate you from the 45% you would have gotten to the 50% you should get, that alone adds substantial points and value to your score. When you get it to two choices and you don't know which one's correct, your goal is just shifted. Your goal is shifted from, I want to get this question correct, to I want to get 1/2 of these questions correct. Take your 50% and run. Most people at this point do one of two bad strategies that reduce the probabilities. Bad strategy number one, let's reread the question. Not only do you not have time to reread the question, most people at this point mentally rewrite the question. They in fact create another question that they're happier answering. They answer that question. It's wrong, but they're happy now. What's the other bad strategy? Reverberation. You're stuck in the options, reading them over and over again. B, D, B, D, and the vain hope that one will reach off the screen and grab you by the nose. It doesn't happen. You get it to two choices, take your 50% and run. There's always another question until you get to the end of the exam. And now that we've been through the exam, we've talked about exam day, I just want to take a few concluding moments to get everything back in perspective for you. What does this Step 2 CK exam really mean? Well, this is not an IQ test. You want an IQ test? You have to arrange one from a professional, but this is not one. This is not even a test of how good a physician you are. Any data I've ever seen looking at Step 2 CK scores versus clinical outcomes, the correlation is small at best. What this exam is, it's better than anything we've ever encountered to tell us one thing. What's the one thing? How well you answer multiple choice questions on medical topics under time pressure. That's what you're being certified as being able to do. The fact that that's silly is irrelevant to you, because unless you master this process, we will not let you move on to do what you want to do, which is practice medicine. I say déjà vu all over again because, ladies and gentlemen, in one way or another, you've been here before. If not this exact exam, then one like it. And the challenge I want to end with is the one I began with. Don't simply tell me, this is what I do. Take time in this process, examine what you do, and see if you can learn to do it better. No one's born knowing how to handle these exams. It's something that you learn. I don't need you to do everything I've recommended. I don't need you to follow all the guidelines I've laid out. But what I do want you to do is pick just one or two things out of what I've talked to you about and apply them to your preparation. Just that alone is going to give you points you otherwise would not have. Every time you go through this process, I want you to be a little bit better, because folks, after step 2, there's step 3, or step 1 even if you haven't taken that yet. After you get into residency, there'll be another board shelf exam every 3 to 6 months, all the way through residency. After residency, you're going to want to be board certified in something, most of you several things. That's another multiple choice exam every 3 to 7 years, listen, your entire medical career. Now, I know you didn't wake up one day and say, boy, I'd really love to go into a profession where I have to take an unending series of multiple choice exams. I know that wasn't your original agenda, but it is really what practicing medicine in the United States requires. You're going to have to learn to master these exams, because until you master this, we do not let you move on. What's the meaning of success and what's the meaning of failure? I want you to focus on success. I want you to think about success. I want you to focus on getting to the goal and being the doctor you want to be. But probabilities being what they are, not everybody succeeds, certainly the first time they take the exam. And so let's take a brief moment to talk about the issues of failure. Failure is not nice. Failure doesn't have you feel very good. But let's also be practical about what failing this exam means. Failing doesn't mean your career is over. Failing doesn't mean your life is ended. If you fail the exam concretely, what is it going to mean? It means you're going to study and take it again. That's not disaster, it's delay. That's not my life is over. That's I'm in this process longer than I wanted or I intended. Now, I don't want failure from you. I want you to be successful. I talk to you now before your exam because I talk to too many people after their exam that haven't learned the kind of things I'm trying to get you to focus on. You have to focus on where you want to go. You have to focus on success. You have to focus on the physician that you want to be. A few concluding thoughts. Have you ever wondered why we have the medical education system we have in the United States? Have you ever wondered why we have the system? The years of pre-med, the many years of medical school, the long years of residency training. Why do we have this long and costly process? Well, I used to think when I was somewhat younger that we have this process because we're trying to guarantee that we get the best and the brightest to be physicians. No. Oh, don't get me wrong. We get good, bright people to be physicians, but that's a side effect, not the main thrust of the system. See, we could easily sit down together and in maybe an hour design an easier, certainly cheaper system to achieve the same goal of getting good people to be physicians. So why do we have this long, costly, time-consuming process? Well, I believe, my opinion, I believe we have the medical education system we have in the United States for one simple reason. To ask you one simple question, the same question, all the time, every day. You know the question. Do you want to do this? Do you really want to do this? Are you sure? And every day we make you get up and say, yes, yes, yes. You say no one day, you're out. We'll replace you with somebody else. That is how the system works. So I want you to see this Step 2 CK exam through that same lens. Yes, you're answering the questions on the screen before you. Yes, you have to apply the knowledge and your reasoning to demonstrate your capacity. But the real question you're answering today is not that question swimming on the screen before you. It's the question whispered in the still small voice in the back of your head. You know the question. Do you want to do this? Do you really want to do this? Are you sure? What's the real purpose of the Step 2 CK exam? Is to make you sit there and say yes, yes, yes 370 times. That's what the exam is about. This exam is not a test of brilliance. It's a test of, like all medicine, persistence, patience, perseverance. It's a hurdle put in front of you to see if you'll jump over the hurdle. It's a test to see if we put the hurdle there, if you can demonstrate how much it is you really want this. And one final thought. If you think the process is too hard, you think the exam is too difficult, you think the mountain is too high, I have some simple comfort for you. You don't have to take the exam. You don't have to take the Step 2 CK exam. You can do something else with your life. You don't have to take this exam. You get to take the exam. This exam is not a burden. This is a privilege. When things seem too hard, take a moment and sit there and reflect just for a moment how many people out there would love to be where you are, preparing for, getting ready for their exam. They never will be there, and you're already there. You don't have to take the Step 2 CK. You get to take this exam. You've been wanting to take this exam. You've been preparing to take this exam. This is the exam where you step up and you show you're no longer a student, that you're going to be the doctor that you want to be. Anything you think Kaplan Medical can do to help you with this process, I absolutely invite you to ask. The people at your center are there to help you. The people are there to guide you. They have seen many people like you come through the process. They have a clear sense of what people have tried that works and what doesn't work. They are good sounding boards when you get frustrated and when you want an ear to listen to how you feel about the process. Take advantage of all that there is to offer. I look forward to seeing you when everybody calls you doctor.